get this started. I'm John Woodson. I'm the president of the Utah Safety Council. Um, I used to show yesterday and went really good. Wojciechowski, if you don't know, is an auto and it felt about yesterday too, so I think I'm going to retire. We're very happy to be here at Cisco. Tammy's been very accommodating, not only to the Utah Safety Council, but to the Women in Safety program. It's been very exciting this year. We had a great Women in Safety event at the state earlier this year. We had a great one a couple of weeks ago at this place here. We're talking last. Excited to be here today with Robin. I don't want to mispronounce her last name, but we're going to get it here quickly real quick. So anyway, I'm going to invite Tammy Brandt. She's the CEO of Safety here. So she has announcements to make that will officially, but again, just wanted to welcome you. Thank you for being here. Women in Safety sponsor and really funded by the Utah Labor Commission. They're recommitting presentation in December and 2024 is going to be the best year ever. So with that, you can provide.
So I just have a few housekeeping things for you guys. First thing is restrooms. Please go out this door. All the way down there's actually signed to the hallway, and they're just that way, okay. So in the event that we do have an alarm while we are in here, we're not the female alarm. There's an alarm in our building. If you guys will just exit out this door here, then that way we have plenty of people around here that will assist you to help you evacuate the building. But go out this door and then all the way down, and then maybe if you haven't signed in, please sign in, because if something does happen, I need to make sure that guy is ready. Okay. And welcome. Nicole, sorry.
No, you're really good. Hello, I'm Nicole, I'm Operations Manager at Utah Safety Council, and I just want to thank everybody for coming today and joining us for this event. And a special thanks to our partner, Cisco International, for providing the venue for today's event. So can we get a round of applause for Cisco? I also wanted to extend my heartfelt thanks to the dedicated members of the Women in Safety Steering Committee for their efforts in committing to making work a safer place for women in the safety field. Lastly, I wanted to remind everybody then to mark your calendars for our next Women in Safety event, which is going to take place on December 8th at this place. It's where we had our last event on the 15th, however, it's in a different venue. And there we're going to be hosting our Wish Award ceremony. What the Wish Award is, for those that haven't been there before, is it's where we're going to celebrate the dedication and outstanding achievements of a woman in the safety field. And we're going to present them with an award and have a luncheon and be able to network with each other. So we do look forward to that. Your presence and support is greatly appreciated. Today, we're going to hear from Robin. Is it Scribner? Scribner, yeah, okay. I didn't want to mess that up. We're going to hear from Robin Scribner. We had the pleasure of having her come speak at our safety conference back in March. And we got such incredible feedback that we knew that we had to have her come to one of our Women in Safety events. At the conference, she did discuss on how men can be allies for women in the workplace. And I'm happy to say we've got a couple male faces in here today, so it just makes it even better. So thank you guys for joining us, because you helping us in the field as well. I just wanted to kind of tell you a little bit about Robin. Robin is a accomplished woman labor force expert and consult. She co-founded Tech Homes. It is a program that's aiding women to get into the tech industry. She's a frequent keynote speaker focusing on women's career development and a prolific writer on women's issues with over 50 publications. Robin has a degree at Brigham University and is certified strength coach. She is passionately researching women's work-life integration challenges. As a mother of 6, she enjoys activities like volleyball, singing, and hiking in the Utah mountains. So I would like to present Robin Ribner, and she's going to tell us how we can get some strategies on getting career. Thank you.
Hey everybody, it's great to be with you today. I just have to say, I have been to 100 million events, and I have never in my life had someone stand up and like, where the exits are and everything else. So you safety friends, not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk, and like, I'm literally, like, I don't know why I've never heard that in a film before. You guys are not, you're serious about safety. So thank you so much. It totally made me so happy. And what is everybody else doing? That they're not telling us how to get out of the building if we need to know, right? Everybody else is falling down on the job. So thank you so much. I'm really excited to be with you today. I want to make a couple statements as I'm getting started. This is a presentation I give a lot. It's really, I think it's really powerful to be deliberate in our decision making as we plan to move ahead in our own careers. I know we have, I talked to a bunch of you at the beginning. For walking around. Thank you for this delicious lunch. Don't throw away my lunch. I'm still going to eat the rest of that chickens. Keep that over there for me. But it was fun to learn about some of you and the stage you are in your career, you are in your specific role. So I think it's going to be a fun conversation today. But the other point that I wanted to make is that I talk about women all the time. That's what I do in my job. That's where my background is and things like that. But I love that we have men in this room with us today. And just so you know, almost everything that I talk about is relevant for both men and women as we're making decisions in our careers. So this information, I hope for you, all of us in this room, is helpful to take home to our partners, to our kids, to our nieces and nephews, or our neighbors, or other people in our lives who might be making some important decisions in their careers. And I hope that's to them. I mentioned like giving birth at some point. That's probably the only thing in here that's really relevant only to women. Everything else should be relevant to all of us. Glad to be with you today. I just want to tell you a little bit about my background and what I do. My program is called Tech Moms. I founded this 3.5 years ago with 2 partners. I have 2 amazing partners. Tech Moms is a nonprofit organization that helps women. Very close. How is the sound? Good? Good. And I hope it's good on the Zoom. We are a nonprofit organization that helps women transition into the technology industry. So one of the things that, one of our mottos around Tech Moms is that in 2023, every company is a tech company. And so I think that the conversations and the ideas that I'm talking about, specifically in regards to tech, I hope that you can all see them as relevant in the work that you are doing individually. And I'm not talking a ton about tech today, but I know that people are like, oh, she's in tech, that's not relevant to me. I know that all of you work in technical systems every single day of the work you're doing. You're using software programs, you're using apps, you're using cables. The person who's just helping me is like, don't trip on the cords. Like, that's all tech, that's IT, right? So the idea that we're helping women transition into tech is really, we're working with a lot of women who need to become more comfortable with the world of technology and even just the idea of technology. And so our women come from a wide variety of backgrounds. We have a lot of women who are doing workforce reentry. You know that lots of women in Utah have a lot of kids. They're about to see a picture of my family. It's going to blow your mind. So I'm just preparing you right now. I just was telling a woman this morning, I was talking to a woman from California and I told her how many kids I had. And she's like, I feel like I want to cry. So anyway, just prepping you right there. So we work with a lot of women who have large families. They took a career break. So they were out of the workforce a while and coming back to work. But we also actually, I just was looking at my numbers yesterday, and of our current applicants, 63% of them who come into my program are currently working, right? So I only have about a third, a little more than a third, for women who are out of the workforce and coming back. Most of the women that we work with are women who are underemployed. So they are looking for more pay, increased flexibility, and better opportunities in their own career lives. And that's why they come to us at Tech Moms. So we do career exploration by helping women understand that there are millions of different kinds of careers in tech. You don't have to be a software developer, a cybersecurity expert, a data scientist to work in tech. It could be a technical recruiter or a digital marketer or a technical salesperson, the whole spectrum from very, very technical to not very techy, but still feeling comfortable in the tech, right? So that's what we do in our program. We've trained more than 350 women in the last 3 years. We have 80 women in our programs right now, including a cohort specifically for women of color. It has been really exciting to see our community grow. And that's really the most important thing that we do at Tech Moms is we have created a community of support for women who are navigating their careers, just like you have here with this Women in Safety group. I really love to go to groups of women, and I know that sometimes people are like, want to be in groups for men. You know, I never want this to be an either-or mentality or feel like somehow if we're doing so much for men, it's really not the case. As we support individual and groups within our organizations, everybody rises and everybody benefits. So I'm grateful for the support that you are all giving to each other. And I'm super excited to learn more about you and the work that you're doing for safety. So don't freak out. That's a lot of kids. And now not all of these are mine. I have 6 kids. I know there are people in the world who have more kids than that. I recognize I don't have the Guinness Book of World Records for the most kids, but 6 kids feels like a lot, and it is a lot. So I showed this picture. So a couple of these are partners of my children, but I've got the cute redhead, that's my daughter there in the middle. I show this picture to emphasize the point that all working women in Utah look a little bit different, right? Some of us are in here and we've worked every day of our lives for pay. I wanted to make that caveat as well. Every woman works every single day, whether or not she's getting paid. Lots of people in the world work every single day, right? But all the women I know work extremely hard, whether or not they're getting paid and have been paid workforce at that time. But some of us here have been working for pay every single day of our lives since we were 16, right? And that's what our career trajectory looks like. And others of us took a little break. I was out of the workforce for 15 years, having been rotten kids, I can call that, a great deal of affection. So I took a very long career. And one of the things, I don't know how many of you are from Utah or grew up in this Utah culture, but I was taught as a teenager to not plan on a career, right? I was taught that I would have kids, which I didn't even want to have kids. Why did I end up with 6? It's because I'm addicted to babies. They're so sweet. And then we're like, why didn't we know that kittens turn into cats? Because they do. Anyway, the babies are not always so sweet. They're mostly pretty good. But I didn't want to have kids without sight. That's what I was taught. That's the culture that I grew up in. Don't think about a career. Don't plan on a career. Plan on having a lot of kids, right? I know that people growing up in different areas and different cultures were told different things, but a lot of the women here in Utah have built careers that work around the rest of their lives. And that's one of the reasons why we focus on tech as an industry, is because it does offer a lot of opportunity for women to build successful careers while also managing the other areas of their lives. Now, we know that all of us have a lot of things to manage, whether or not we have children, whether or not we have a partner, we all have people that we care about. We all have things that we care about. Some of us are taking care of our parents. My parents are 85. They're literally amazing. They're still kicking and going strong. I go to the gym with my mom and dad every morning. It's very fun. So we have those areas of our lives. We have our hobbies. We have our health issues. We have all these other things that we're working on. And so understanding that our careers are going to move up and down. They're going to ebb and flow, and recognizing that that's a normal part of the process can help us when sometimes we get a little down on ourselves and we're like, dang, I'm 35. I should have been here by now. Or dang, I'm 60. I should have been here by now. I should be retired in 5 years, things like that, and looking at what it looks like. So with my own career, I took a long break. And I'm talking to young women today who I still have a lot of them who tell me that. I'm not really thinking about a career. My nephews were for last week, right? I'm not worried about this. I just be a mom. I said, that's fantastic. I love being a mom. I have 6 kids. Just so you know, I have 6 kids. I was at home from the time that my oldest was about 2 until my youngest was 3. And I will still have a 30-year career in paid workforce, right? So I had way more kids than the average. I stayed home for a long time, and I will still have a very long career. And so this idea, even if you want to be a stay-at-home mom, even if you want to have all these kids, even if you want to do these other things, recognize that all of us will be working for a significant part of our lives. And the more strategic and deliberate we are in making decisions about our careers, the more successful our careers will be. I remember talking to a group of neighbors And I had a lot of women in my neighborhood who worked at the local elementary school, which is a fantastic place to work. They were doing a lot of good in their communities, in their neighborhoods. But one of the women, my neighbors, was complaining to me about her low pay. And I said, well, tell me why you chose that job. She said, well, I wanted to have the same hours as the kids. And I looked at her in the face and I said, I just want to remind you, we've been an empty nester for 7 years, right? The reason why she chose that job, which fine reason, right? It was no longer relevant to her day to day, but she had gotten kind of into a rut and was just moving along with the things that she is doing. And she had missed out on some opportunities. It was a time for her to make a different shift and be earning a lot more money because those hourly restrictions were no longer relevant to her goals and she. So I just want to keep this kind of in mind as we're talking today. Some of the stuff I say will be super relevant to you as an individual. Some of them will be like, that doesn't have anything to do with me. That's not my life experience. But just know that some of this stuff might be helpful to other people that you know and that you're working with. So I want you to all, I would love for you to talk to each other at your tables as we're having this conversation. And I give another speech all the time that's called 10 Things I Hate About Networking. And I have this great picture of Heath Ledger and Julia Stiles up there from that nice movie from the 90s. Maybe from the 90s. However old that movie is. Because sometimes we get into settings like this and we're like, I'm kind of an introvert. I don't really like talking to other people. I'm just going to chill here and eat my lunch. And that presentation that I give, talk about the fact that I will die on this hill. The single most important thing that we can all do for our careers is build and leverage strategic professional relationships. So when you get a chance to practice that right now, even though that's not with me for this talk today. So I want you to talk, I'm going to give you like 5 minutes at your tables. First of all, what stage of your career are you in? Right? Some of us, I just talked to our nice friend. He's just been at this company for like 3 weeks, right? In this job, brand new in this specific job. Now, there's a different question. What stage of my career am I in? And what stage of the specific job am I in? Right? And those are often questions. So I want you to kind of answer that for each other. If you've got a big table, you guys can flip to, but don't just talk to your friend. Talk to someone that you don't know, right? Okay, and yeah, and if you're all just sitting with your friends, mix it up. Okay. So what stage of your career are you in? What brought you to this event today? Why are you here to learn from other people, grab together with other women in safety? Maybe this specific topic is one of the reasons that brought you here. So why did you come here today? So then I want you to start out with 3 goals. What are 3 things that you want to be working on in your career over the coming year that you know are goals for you? Okay. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Go ahead and have those questions and answer these with everybody at your table. Split it to whatever group you need to be doing. Okay.
What's your my questions? Sort of Friday show. Please come out the story. Yes. I have a sister on Friday. Which out so 2 months a day. It's already considered this. It's 2 years right? Just show you things to say. So I just started posting it's the early Nigeria money. She said on the bed. I'm getting okay. It's a lovely for me. No worries about it was just yeah, I was distracted. Really upsetting. I feel it's because I'm there to all that. You were saying yeah, that was what you can do that. Obviously, I'm yes, it's contributing to the body. So I'm the next things. Well, what are you thinking about just you, which you're not about very each good. I think that's good. First, to the big part, which will be It's the question. Squeeze. Like, sure, but they couldn't do the eyes. They did it was almost. Very good. It's very straight to this. It's the back. And then to the paper. So people. No. Serious. We're not just next like I did to the month and keep on my so that God even letters in the thing of had you in the welcomes. It's not. So right now, my great next level. GSE, yeah,
So take about 30 more minutes and then be wrapping up your
yeah.
Bring the conversations back to Andrew. So, here's a question for you as we're finished. Yeah. How many of us have been in our current role for less than 1 year? Current role for less than 1 year. Okay. How many of us have been in our current role for 5 years or less? 5 years or less. Right. How many of us have been in our current role for 6 years as everybody else? Right. Okay. How many of us are at the same company that we were at 5 years ago? Okay, so we have some good long timers here, right? People who stayed in the same organization. Anybody been in your career at more than 5 different organizations? Okay, yeah, your whole career. Your whole career, you've been more than 5 different organizations. Maybe like your adult career, like not your job that you have when you're 14, but your adult career. Okay, so one of them, I'm going to say this is a little different in this industry. I would say that if I had this at a regular tech company, a regular tech gathering, that there would be many, many people who have been at more than 5 organizations. It's exciting to see the opportunities that happen in some industries that are a little more stable And some companies that have a lot of room for growth, where you can stay at a company for 20 years and be in a lot of different roles and be moving ahead. So I hope you had a good time getting to know each other a little bit. I would love for you to hang on to the goals that you talked about. I'm going to ask for a few people to share those a little bit later in the presentation. Are we not moving? Perfect. So I believe in the rule of threes. I think threes are easy for us to remember. So today we're going to focus on 3 questions. First thing we're going to talk about is how am I doing right now in my career, right? So we're going to talk about the stage where we are and a little bit about how we got there, but where we were at this moment. Next, where am I going? What am I looking forward to over the coming 6 months, in the coming 2 years, or the coming 10 years? And then finally, the question, what is holding me back from moving forward to the way that I want to try career? So first I want to talk about career stages. I already gave you a hint with this when I said, what stage of career are you in right now? I know that there are a lot of different models to understand our careers. The one that we're going to talk about today is called the 4 stages model. It's by some researchers called Felton and Thompson. Thompson is actually my dad, full disclosure. So I'm not just sharing like some random idea that my dad told me at dinner. He was a very successful career scholar. He actually consulted with engineering firms and other companies all around the world. This model came from the 80s. Okay, so this was created. This model was a little bit older. And so when Donald Thompson went into engineering firms, law firms, a lot of professional organizations, and they talked to managers and leaders and said, let's understand where people are at your company and organization. And they actually did a lot of research of employee satisfaction. So both the employees themselves and the managers' satisfaction with their employees. And out of that research came 4 stages. A lot of this is pretty common sense, right? Understanding this. So first of all, we have the apprentice stage. Second is individual contributor. Third is a mentor or manager, depending on the lingo that you want. And the next is sponsor or executive level leader. So if we're looking at ourselves, and you don't need to raise your hand, but actually let's have a little bit of a conversation first. What are some qualities of those who are in the apprentice stage of their career? How do we use that word? Yeah.
Eager to learn.
Eager to learn. Wonderful. And also have a lot to learn, right? So they're eager to learn, but they don't know a lot yet, right? What else? What are other characteristics of the apprentice stage of it? Yeah. Not sure when they want to go. So open to a lot of different possibilities. How about the fact that they are often not able to do their work independently? Right, to contract at the next level. An apprentice might need, okay, I have to build this system. I don't know how to do it. Can I get a manager or some kind of leader here to show me how to do this task that's in front of me? And they might need to show me 2 or 3 times, but pretty soon I'll be able to get it. But with a lot of different things that they're doing in their stage of their career, that apprentice stage, they are learning and they need help. They can't really. When you're looking at the resources needed and that value added, they're at this low end of the spectrum, right? They probably need more resources and investment into them than are actually giving back to the organization, right? Okay, how about individual contributor, the name of the law, right? They're able to do their own work pretty well. They're able to bring value to the company. I didn't bring too many slides and things like that for this presentation. I didn't want to flog it, but I have a cool chart that shows the contribution of these different 4 levels of careers, right? And the individual contributor, their line just kind of goes across, right? What they're giving in kind of equals what they're giving out. They're providing new value for what they're doing. And another thing that I wanted to emphasize with this, and we talked about this a little bit with the questions that I was asking about where you are in your career. It's not like once we hit the individual contributor stage, we're there forever, right? We might go back to the apprentice stage. If we go to a new organization, every time we go to a new role, right? We're going to be learning something new. I give a speech sometimes about imposter syndrome. And I talk about the fact that we always see this as a negative, right? Like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm scared that I'm not bringing value. In my mind, if you're not feeling imposter syndrome, it means you're not learning anything new. If you always know everything that you're doing in every role that you're ever doing, it means you're not getting the opportunity to grow. I see imposter syndrome, right? I see the fact that we do experience it means I'm stretching myself. I'm learning something new. I'm gaining new skills. So we're going to be going back and forth between these levels in our career. Actually, a ton of people get stuck at the individual contributor level of their career, and they stay there for 20 years. These are the people that Dalton and Thompson found were very dissatisfied with their own careers, and their managers and leaders were very dissatisfied with them. Because there was the expectation that they would continue to grow and learn and add additional value to the organization, and they weren't, right? Now I want to mention this note down at the bottom. There was, in the 80s, when we had this very large organization, I don't know, the opposite is flat organizations. What do we call them? With lots and lots of managers, leadership, things like that. That was a trend in the 80s. And as Dalton and Thompson continued their research in subsequent years, they identified technical stage advancement that were individual contributors who were not managers or leaders. They weren't managing teams or other people, but they were providing high value because they were so technically competent and valuable at their stage. And that's another thing that we've learned is that a lot of great individual contributors, a lot of great technical experts are actually not great people leaders. And so the idea that we wanted to push everybody, my best software developer, I want to push her to become a team lead, software or not a people leader, right? And so there is another level of this, which is super individual contributors that do bring that 3x, 4x times value, right? So moving on to the mentor manager and looking at value in and value out. And this starts to move in like a multiplicative, that's a hard word to say, multiplicative way. It was multiplying, right? So starting to move in that area that the resources going into that person, what was coming out was ×2 or ×3, right? What are the qualities of our mentors and our managers? What are they doing in our organizations? Teaching and coaching, right? So they're working with the apprentices, and maybe also giving some support to the individual contributors, making sure that people have the space and room they need to grow and be super successful and have the barriers removed out of their way so they can bring their best work. What else for our mentors and managers? Leadership, wonderful.
Partnering with other vendors and initiatives.
I love it. So a lot of times, apprenticeships and individual contributors will be working within their own teams and their own divisions, departments, and managers are more working across the organization. I love it. So their impact is growing company-wide. Any other thoughts about mentors and managers, qualities that we have at that stage of our career? Okay, and then moving into the fourth stage, it's our sponsor and our executive level. And so if there's a multiplied effect with the mentors and managers, there's an exponential effect with our executives and sponsors. And not everybody gets to this level of their career. This is often our C-suite leaders, our senior SVPs, maybe big division managers and things like that. So when we're looking at our organization, what are some qualities of these sponsors and executives?
They have to be good listeners.
Go on.
They need to listen to what's the heartbeat or what pulse is in their organization. And from that, they help their managers then to understand what that is and then they take it down further. But it's their job to listen and to know the trends and which way not only is the outside world moving, but how the inside world is moving as well.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to repeat that a little bit for the people on Zoom. So the managers, the executives need to be listening to what's going on, keeping their finger on the pulse of the company, and then drilling that down, taking that to their managers, taking that to other people. So another part of this is that the executives have more of a strategic vision. So maybe the managers are focused on their team and decisions there with their people, and the executives are looking at the entire organization. And going back to what you were saying before about the managers working across teams within a company, executives are working across the industry, right? And so their impact is often felt not just in their organization, but much, much more broadly. Okay, so if we are looking at these 4 stages of careers, I want each of us to think individually, where am I right now? Which stage am I in? And what did I need to get here? What did I do to get here? And where do I want to be? Okay, so understanding impact we're bringing right now. And saying, if I were looking at my next step, what would this look like? So I'm going to give you, I love you all. You all got a paper there with my face on it. Amazing. Okay, I want you to take a second, or if you prefer to write it on your phone or whatever. And I'd like you to write a from to statement for yourself. I've got an example here. From the individual contributor who adds value through technical expertise, closely follows others' direction. So this is where she is right now. Okay, this is where I want to move from, and I want to move to a people leader who creates a clear strategy and delivers results through a small team. Okay, so she has a specific idea of what she wants to do. So say where I am now and where I want to go next. Okay, I'm going to give you all 2 minutes to write yourself to a draft. Just imagine, don't think long term, like where I want to be in 20 years. Think about where you want to be in 1 year or in 2 years. Write yourself a from to statement. Is God ever still working? Why didn't finish it when you're working on what you're writing? How was that? Was it easy? How many thought this was a pretty easy exercise? You've got a pretty clear sense of what your next step is, your next goal. Okay. So for a few of us, this was easy. How many have found this very difficult? Thank you for being brave. Okay. Right? The rest of us is like, nah, not easy, not hard. No big deal. I didn't really do it. I was just checking my text. Really do it, you guys. No, I'm just kidding. Is anybody willing to share their from statement with us? Just to hear an example of what's going on. We all work in different companies. It's like our bosses could be like, I didn't know she was out of here already. Just kidding. Anybody want to share theirs? Thank you so much.
I kind of copied the delivers results through a small team because my leadership strategy is results through empowerment. So that spoke directly to me. So I wrote from manager who mentors and directs and delivers results through a small team to a sponsor who provides vision and strategic direction for a large organization.
That was beautiful. I was going to repeat it, and people on Zoom, and the words were too beautiful. Can I read it?
Yeah.
Just so people can read your right?
Oh, my eyeballs. We'll see.
From a manager who mentors and directs and delivers results through a small team to a sponsor who provides vision and direction for a large organization. That was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Everybody comfortable with the idea of a mentor versus a sponsor? We all know what the difference is there. Can somebody summarize that just for the group? What's the difference between a mentor and a sponsor?
A mentor is somebody who helps you learn what you need to do, not necessarily specifically to the job that you're doing, but something that's going to help further your career.
Okay, pause right there, so I can say it. So mentor is someone, is there anyone? There is someone on this team, right? Because I hate to be doing all this stuff. There's there. Okay, so a mentor is someone who helps you know what you need to do and helps you not necessarily for your own job that you're doing right now, but helps you know what you need to do for your career versus
sponsor is usually someone higher up who's willing to put their name on the line to help you further your career.
Right. So a sponsor is someone usually in your own organization, usually higher up than you, who's able to put their own name on the line to help you and give you access to what you need and want to do. So that's a good summary of what you said. Right. And so a mentor could be anyone from any organization doing whatever. Sponsor more likely to actually not just tell you how to do the thing that you need to do, but open the doors for you to do it. Right. So I liked the distinction that you made in your front two statement that right now I'm mentoring and I want to be in a position where I can be sponsoring. Okay. So as we're moving on from the section of where I am, I'm going to give you each the challenge to be thinking about this over the next couple of weeks, couple of months. Make sure that you have a clear understanding of your current role and the way you see yourself, but also, if you're brave, how other people see you. Like, how does your manager view what you're doing? Does your manager see you as an apprentice or as an individual contributor or a sponsor or a sponsor, right? How do your executives within your organization, how do some of your peers and your colleagues, how do they view you? Understanding your own perceptions of yourself, but other perceptions of you will be really helpful as you're starting to make a decision about what comes next for you, okay? So we're going back to our 3 questions. And now we're going to talk about where we're going. We've just done a little bit with this exercise. So as we're ready to make deliberate steps in our career, there's lots of different ways we can do this. Most of us will just go looking for a new job, right? Like, I've been in this job for 2 years. I'm ready for a promotion. I'm ready to make some moves. I want some changes. I might look within my own company. I might look outside my organization. I might even look outside my field, my own industry, and make a major pivot or shift, right? So those are some of our options, all good options. Today, I want to focus a little bit on a different tactic that can help prepare us for making those moves. And this is a strategy called job crafting. How many of us have heard this term before, familiar with this idea of job crafting? Okay, so job crafting is the idea that we work within the job that we currently have and turn it into the job that we want, right? Now, some of us have a lot more flexibility to do this than others. If we're working at Wendy's and our job is to give people food, we don't have a lot of ability to do like a marketing campaign for Wendy's, right? So, there are certain roles that are pretty rigid, pretty circumscribed within a very defined set of parameters. But most of us, we will find, do have some opportunities to pivot and shift within our roles. Have any of you done this? I was going to think, we talked about this a little bit before. My wonderful friend, whose name I've forgotten, Ross, has been at her same company for 13 years and has been in a bunch of different roles at that company. So I said, maybe I'll think I know that. I won't just yet, but still maybe can. So she's been at the same company for 13 years, and I asked her a little bit about her career trajectory. Any of us that have been in the same company for a lot of years, we have moved around. We have pivoted, we have shifted, not just in our specific job titles and our formal job designation, but in the work that we do day to day, okay? So as we're starting to make some decisions about what we want to be doing next, doing a personal assessment again of what do I do in my day-to-day job right now. One of the reasons why this is a really relevant conversation to have in a room full of women is that research has shown that women are very likely to take on a large number of non-promotable activities. Okay, we plan the luncheon. This is an amazing luncheon. I know this is not a regular job. This is actually I think we're doing that good, but we plan the company events. We take notes at meetings. We do a pool for everybody's birthday cards or ordering birthday cake or whatever. Even things that are more aligned to the strategic plan of the company, like we run a women's ERG within our own company, or we're on a committee to say, where are we going over the next year with this specific product? But it's not actually tied to our own key role. And so it's not part of our list of tasks that we are evaluated on in terms of pay, right? So why do we do this? And yes, fixers. Because we're fixers. I think I'm parent fixers. That sounds kind of ominous too, right? Like the fixers. Yeah. What were you saying? Nice. We're nice, right? We want to get stuff done. And if stuff needs to happen and nobody's doing it, we will jump in. We're used to doing this in our families and at the PTA and all the other areas of our lives that fill up our lives, right? There are other reasons why we do this. So those are all valid reasons why we do it. Another reason why we do it is that we hope it gets noticed, right? If we don't have a lot of visibility within the organization and we say, I'm going to serve on this committee, then maybe I will get noticed and that team leader of this other team that I want to know about me, person will see me, right? That's another reason why we do it. Sometimes we do it because it's really important work, like running a women's ERG at our company or running a pride ERG at our company or something like that. That matters to us because nobody else is doing that.
I noticed when I move from one position to another, I still get asked to help with that whole position because that's people know me in that position. They know me, they're called in that position. And it's just easier to help them right then than to direct them to the person that they should be talking to.
Right.
And try to upload. I mean, I'm my direct supervisor comes to me because he used to be a safety admin. I'm not safety admin, but he's, will you set up this team meeting? You do this. I'm like, oh, that should be some other numbers.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's part of
it is part of it. Thank you so much. So sometimes we continue to do roles from our previous jobs because we know how to do it and it's easiest to get it done in that moment, right? And you were shaking your head when she said it's easier because over the long term, it's not easier. But in that moment, you're like, I got 30 things to do this afternoon. So this moment, it's easier for me to do it myself. It's the same thing with like teaching our kids to do their own laundry, right? In that moment, it feels easier just to do it.
So isn't that a matter of allowing that you're allowing to do that, and instead of empowering someone else and saying, I'll be more than happy to show them how to do this so that they can take on this role.
Yeah. So I like that. I like that point. It's a difference of allowing ourselves to be taken advantage of versus empowering someone else to do the work that they need to do and should be doing. And there are lots of like cultural baggage, different things that we're all carrying, right, in the way that we've socialized as women here in the States. So this is a broader conversation that we have to dive into today, but it's worth thinking about. And so when we're looking at our own, should I make the okay. So when we're looking at this, I would love for each of you, and maybe just take a second on the back of your paper to make yourself a little pie chart. What percentage of time are you spending in your current job on your key deliverables? The reasons that your job exists, the most important thing to do, the ones that are driving revenue, the ones that are driving savings, whatever the be all and end all of your job. What percentage of your time are you spending on those key deliverables? What percentage are you spending on useful but non-essential, non-promotable tasks? So helping other people out, trying to do it because women need to be seen as nice, and if they're not, then they get a better reputation or whatever. Okay. And then we all have within our role soul-sucking activities. That just like, dang, I know I have to do this report every month and I hate it so bad. But I'm gonna do it. Right. And when I talk to kids all the time, I remind them, you will not love every part of your job. Everybody has parts of our job that we hate, and we have to do them because they're part of our job, right? So take a little assessment. So I'll give you 30 seconds, right? Draw yourself a pie chart. and see what you've got here. These 3 different areas, and if you think of another area I don't have, add it. It might be going to like participating in community events, maybe that's wrong. Okay, go ahead and finish up your chart. Let's take a look at this as I'm working on this. And again, every job is different on how much flexibility that we have. One thing we know for sure is that nothing will change if we don't try, right? If we don't ask, if we don't explore, if we don't give it a shot, right? We will end up doing the same things that we started doing. So first of all, I want you to think about some of the things you're doing that are not within your sweet spot, not what you want to do right now, and more importantly, not what you want to do next, right? So are there tasks within my current job that I can either reduce or reassign? Now, I hate to use 2 terrifying letters in this room, but AI. So I'm just gonna tell you, even though I run a tech-related nonprofit, I am a late adopter. I am really bad at tech. I am literally terrified of AI, right? So it's hard for me to say this, but it is coming. It's not just coming, it's already here. It's literally going to affect the jobs of every single person in this room, right? So are things that I can be exploring right now? Maybe I still need to do the job. Can I reduce the time that I'm spending on the job by using some technical tools that will make this a little bit easier? It might take a little bit longer in the short term as you get up to it, but if it starts saving you, it takes 5 hours to learn, and then you save an hour a week, that's worth it, right? That's a worth it investment. Are there tasks that we could reassign? We don't all need teams, so we're not necessarily in a position to reassign some of our tasks. But do you know that one person's soul sucker is another person's light and joy? Like, I have a sister-in-law, literally, her Thanksgiving dinner planning spreadsheet has 3 tabs. Like, that is how intense her planning of Thanksgiving dinner goes to them. Like, which dish are we using? What time does this go in the oven? What have we recommended before? She loves a good spreadsheet, man. She project managed my daughter's wedding. That had 20 tabs. And I kept saying, do you hate me so bad? Like, we ever forgive me? She goes, this is more fun than I've had in years. Okay, I'm just saying, one person's soul sucker. I have to use spreadsheets all the time. Right? I have to use it, put it together, the end of month report. So the day after my daughter's wedding, I was going into a coma. I was so exhausted, right? And really one day. The next morning, she's like, let's start after action review. I've already done mine. All these other things. Like, that is her, that's where she lives. That is what she loves. That is not me. She hates thinking strategy. She hates thinking big picture, like coming up with a year-long strategic plan. She would hate that. But if I give her the plan, I have to execute the plan, right? So are there skill setting activities in my day-to-day job that actually a team member would love to do because it's just right in her wheelhouse, right? And vice versa. Are there things that I need to learn for the next job that I want to do that I can ask them to say, hey, could you teach me how to create that report? I really need to learn how to use data visualization tool or whatever it is. So if you teach me how to do that, and then I can build those reports from here on out, and I'm giving you a skill, and you've got a soul sucker after, right? So what can we reduce through efficiency tools or whatever? What can we reassign? And then, I already got to my answer. What can I add or expand? So as we are looking forward to what's ahead for us and what our next steps are, go ahead.
Question.
Yeah.
So how is a good way is you just have thinking strategically about your career. A lot of times you get assigned roles that are not part of your current job description, and it's portrayed as this is a great opportunity for you to learn and grow. But you know it's not. Okay. You know it's either a legal thing activity or something. How do you say, cross up this boundary and say, no,
without coming off as a mean person? That's a fantastic question, just for everybody to hear. Sometimes we are offered opportunities that are put forward as a great opportunity for you to grow, you to learn and grow, but it's really not. It is a time waster for us and not something that's going to benefit us. So how do we push back against that and set our own boundaries without coming across negative, right? Okay, so there are a couple different options here. And I would love to hear ideas of yours as well as you're doing this. One is to be really honest in our assessment and say, is there an opportunity that I really could get something out of this, right? And if there is, you might decide that you want to take it, okay? That's option number one. It may not be a great one, but it might be good to have its resistance, right? Option number two is to say to the manager or whoever's asking you to do that, that sounds like an interesting opportunity. I imagine that's going to take about 20% of my time. Which task that I'm currently doing should I move aside for now to free up space for me to do the job you're asking me to do? Right, so putting it back on them to say, of course, this is going to take my time. It cannot take time out of my personal life or my non-work hours. So what are my current jobs do I need to let go, right? So that's another way to do it. And then the third way is just a kind but firm refusal to say, I appreciate that you're in a tough spot, but right now I'm at my capacity and I don't have the space to do that. Can I recommend some other ideas? Maybe throw somebody else out with us, right? If you've got a friend, get that job to the call. Or, you know, another way to achieve the task. So that another one that sounds like this is might be the right fit. But depending on our time and our circumstances. So I want to throw an idea out here, which is, and it's not, this is a different situation than what you just talked about. It might seem that it's responsive, but it's not. I also want to throw the idea out there for us all to be open to saying yes. Okay. So as women, we are taught that it's important for us to learn how to say no, which is absolutely right. In that situation that you just put forward, it is important. And there are lots of situations where we need to say no. The times that we need to consider if it's right to say yes is when the reason that we are saying no is not a good reason. And the main reason that's not a good reason is we're saying no out of fear. Okay. So I'll share a little story with you. When I first went back to work after a 15-year career break, I was working at another nonprofit and I was hired as a researcher. So my only job was to research and write articles. And it was a very small nonprofit, it was a team of 3. And my boss sent an email one day and she's like, oh dang, I forgot to do any fundraising for our events next year. Do y'all have any ideas for companies that might want to be sponsors? That's right. It was a small amount. We needed to raise $8,000. So it wasn't a huge fundraising ask. So this was in no way my responsibility. It was not my job title. It was unreasonable for her to ever think that I would come in with this, right? I was brand new to the workforce. But I sat there, and so it would have been easy for me to say, oh, sorry, I don't, right? And end of story, and no pushback, you know, if I said that. But I sat there in the moment and I said, I'm new returning to the workforce. I'm looking long-term in my career. Is there any way that it would ever be a bad thing for me to learn how to ask people for money? Well, of course not. Learning how to ask people for money is good for all of us. We should all learn how to ask people for money, right? And even though I was fundraising in a very specific space, I'm like, the skills you learn there are similar to the skills that you use in sales. And as my dad always says, every job is sales. If we don't know that, we need to learn about our careers. Because if we're not selling externally to customers, we're selling internally to our managers, right? Can I get the resources I need for this project? We're selling internally to our teammates. Can you help me with this activity, right? Every job is sales. So I knew in that moment, even though it's not my responsibility, that I would benefit, that my career would benefit if I said yes to a task that I could have easily said no to. So I went out. My dad was a university president. And so he had been fundraising his whole life. And so I went to my dad, he's my best mentor. So I went to my dad and I said, can you teach me how to go fundraise for this? And so he gave me some ideas. We actually went with me. We talked to 2 or 3 companies. Everyone turned me down. And then I finally came back to my dad came to me and he said, you can go tell Susan that you've got a sponsor. It's me. That's the cutest ever. So they gave us $2,000. I wanted to sponsor for that year. But anyway, because I said yes and that, I learned how to do basic fundraising. And then 6 months later, when the nonprofit was growing, my boss came to me and said, I want you to be the fundraiser for this organization. You know enough about the thing, you started learning these skills. And now I fundraise all the freaking time. It's like the main thing. I run a nonprofit, and when you run a nonprofit, all you do is fundraise, right? But because I said yes in that moment, I started the pathway toward a skill that absolutely changed. And I never would have found it. That's nonprofit with my partners if I did not feel very confident I know fundraise, right? So that one moment of saying yes changed my career trajectory. So when something comes in front of you, but it's not the right thing to do, say no, right? Find another way to get out of it. But ask yourself first, am I saying no to this out of fear? Am I saying no to this because I think I won't be good at it? Am I saying no to this because I think I'm going to fail, right? And if that's the reason, second guess your no and imagine what would happen if you say yes. And you can even say like I did, like I've never fundraised before, I don't know anything about this. I might not do a great job, but I'm happy to give it a try. Right? That's the easiest place to try out something new. And the expectations are already super for you, right? Nobody expects you to be a huge success, and you're going to outperform those expectations. So be ready to say yeah in some sort of it's relevant to what we're doing. So when we're looking at what's next, I've got some ideas here. Informational interviews. We all know this concept of informational interviews. So you're not looking for a job, you're not getting anything out of a specific person other than just information. I have these all the time. Actually, I was doing many informational interviews with you today. Tell me what your job is. What do you do on your day-to-day? What do you like about your job? I do these all the time because I love careers, right? But as we're looking at people who are in situations and areas where we want to be, having a 15 to 30-minute conversation with them, asking them how they got there, what they love about their day-to-day, what makes them successful, any advice they have for you. Those are very, very powerful conversations you should have. If it's tough, like if you want your boss's job, that's a tough conversation to have with her. So like look at who has your boss's job at a competing or another similar organization. Who's in the type of role that you want to be in? You go talk to that person. You may not want to talk to her. Please say, how can I get your job next? That's not. And like I said, she's grooming you for that, which would be fantastic, right? And then hopefully she'll be really involved in the conversation. So if you're having those informational interviews, and even when you're just looking through job descriptions, right? Like looking at the jobs that are the next step for you, go and I read job listings all the time. I go in and I read and go, what are the key competencies you need to be successful at your job? What are the key tools that you need to know in order to get this job? And start working on those things. Some of them you might be able to add to your current job and take on that data visualization tool, whatever it is, take on that annual report and start working on that. And then when you're ready for that job, go, I've already been doing this, this, and this in my current role. I'm ready to bring into this area. Okay. And then the last question, I am very much personally an ask for forgiveness, not permission kind of gal. That's the way I work in my way. I know that not all of us have that temperament and not all of us have that ability, right? There's some situations, if it is legally your job that you have to be like signing this paper, don't have sex, right? Like we're working at safety, right? We gotta follow these rules. But in a lot of cases, you will find that there is a lot of support and permission out there, but you'll never know unless you ask for it. So if there are things that you know, clearly it doesn't matter which person on the team takes up this task. Ross said, the four of you work this out, and you work it out, right? But if you do need formal permission or some other word names there, then how do you get that, right? And by having these conversations, having a clear plan, bringing just like you do in a salary negotiation, going into the conversation, letting your boss or your manager or whatever, let them know how it's going to benefit them for you to make this change. You're going to have much more success as you're having a conversation. Okay. Okay. So hold on. I want to give you a challenge. I like to challenge challenges. So again, for the next month or so, I want you thinking, go into, you talked about your from to statement. What are the things that you need to be adding to and expanding in your own role, your own responsibilities? They're going to get you closer to the place that you want to go next. And in order to free up some of that time, are there some of these other things that you can raise? I love the comment that you made before about empowering somebody else, right? All of us got to where we got in our jobs because we were given opportunities to improve ourselves, opportunities to learn new skills, and it can be a way to help somebody else along that journey. So that was a great. Okay. Last question here. We're coming to the end of our time.
It's okay. We just have
I'm very for saying, and this would only need to and you. But some come with the surgeries. You must have really alienation or start tests. My phone is just a test. Oh, it's only a test, right? I do all the remember that. And it's all right, is that it? Still good to go ahead? Okay, so this last question, what's holding me back? I want to qualify again this idea as we're talking about what's holding us back personally as individuals. The next section that I'm bringing up is from this book called How to Rise. If you have not read it, I highly recommend it. It's an excellent book. This book was written by Sally Helgesen and Marshall Goldsmith. And in a minute, we're going to get to talk about what it's about. This book is a how-to book for women, helping them learn to overcome habits that are holding them back. This book could fall under the broad category of fixing women. Okay, so I want to state right now, there are systemic challenges that every underrepresented group faces in their lives, in their jobs, in their areas that they're working, right? Many of them are not deficits in us as individuals. So the fact that that women have a big pay disparity, that is not women's fault, right? It is a systemic problem with a lot of other things. Okay, and I listened to Sally Helgesen talk about this, that she spent her whole research studying women, her whole career studying women's careers and their ability. She's like, I know that there are lots of problems so big that no individual woman could overcome it, right? So I want to just clarify by this next section that we're talking about, I'm not telling the women in this room that there's something wrong with that, okay? There are a lot of things that happen on a societal level that hold people back. There are things that happen on organizational levels, so within our companies and the groups that we're working in, things like that. But at the same time, there are things that we can do as individuals that will help us move forward and help us overcome those barriers. And actually, those are the only things within our control until we get to that manager, sponsor, executive level, right? So I say all the time, I'm working on some of the big issues. I'm not there like talking to groups and doing all this other stuff to deal with some of the bigger issues. So that's what I love to do. But also when I'm making decisions about myself as an individual, sometimes I make different decisions based on what's right for me versus what I see as right for a whole organization. Okay, so I'm not blaming women. I'm not saying that it's women's fault that they're having some challenges in their career, but there are things that we can look at too. So this book was based on a previous book written by Marshall Goldsmith, the other co-author, who is an executive career coach, talked to tens of thousands of people in his career. And he wrote a book called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. Okay, he looked at people who were stuck in their careers and identified habits that got them to a certain level in their career and then were holding them back from getting to that managerial spot. So this is what he did. He wrote this book, and these were the habits that he came up. Winning too much, adding too much value, telling people how smart you are, failing to give proper recognition, claiming credit you don't deserve. Okay. So these are the things with all of his clients that he talked to at work. So Sally Helgesen, who was a women's career researcher, read Marshall's book, and she said, and then she called him up and she's like, Marshall, I'd love to see the demographics of the people that you interviewed for your book and the people that you were talking to. And she said, some of those habits I could imagine are very common with men, very common. Can you identify for me up here that you think might be something, and again, we're using very broad strokes. Every one of us is an individual. Not all of us is like 100% feminine or 100% masculine. We all have a lot of both in our lives. But looking at broad stereotypes, there are some things that men are more likely to do, ways that men are more likely to behave, and vice versa. So looking at this list, can you think of some of these that maybe to men? Yeah. Failing to get proper recognition, right? What is the challenge that women have? It's failing to take credit, right? We women all the time, and there are again societal factors that deal with this. they do surveys of people, and when women stand up and say, oh, I did this thing, they're seen as less favorable. So women do it for a reason. We fail to claim credit for a reason. It's because we get pushback. We're seen as being arrogant or whatever. Whereas if a man can do that with a little more ease and not get the same kind of pushback, right? So there are reasons that we fail to claim credit, but it is a habit that we have that's holding us back. What about others? And so this is the opposite. Claiming credit we don't deserve. I think most women are unlikely to do that. Some do. I know some women who claim credit that they don't deserve. But this is a more common trait among men who weren't achieving a successful life. What else?
Failing to express gratitude.
Failing to express gratitude, right? I think women have a recognition to be very grateful, to say, oh, I only got here because of the support of this person. How about not listening? Like women are taught, we're taught to be really great listeners. Not all of us are, but I think women in general are listeners. What was another one we had?
Playing favorites.
Playing favorites. Okay. So anyway, so Sally got together with Marshall and said, let's rewrite this book, but let's interview hundreds of successful women executives and see what some of the differences are. Okay. And so you can see a lot of these were not relevant. Refusing to express regret. That's actually a huge, it's one of the habits we're going to see in the next one. Women regret too much. We ruminate too much on our failures, right? Whereas the men that they were working with were like, not my fault, did not take responsibility, right? So I crossed off the ones here that they showed were more relevant to men than to women. But some of these are very relevant to women. Adding too much value. We're going to talk about this in just a second. Speaking when angry. Now, do we know the difference between what happens when women are angry and men are angry, especially in professional settings? What happens when women are angry? It leaks out their eyes, right? We're not crying because we're sad. We're not crying because we're scared. We're crying because we're pissed off, right? But it's like, but this is what our bodies do to express our anger. And then the guys were like, oh, I don't have to do when you're crying, right? Because of communication, which is working on too. So when men get angry, they yell, and when women get angry, they cry. And one is seen as being strong, and one is seen as being weak, right? And so understanding some of the unconscious biases that we have all around these can be helpful as we're working in all of our teams and all of our organizations to find out how we can be more effective by understanding each other better. So claiming to the past, yeah, that's one of the ones. So anyway, I just thought this was a real interesting list of the differences in seeing how some of the things that got men to be successful are not the same things that got women to a certain level, then we're holding them back. So Marshall and Sally's last name is hard to say, so I just pretend like we're friends, like all my first names. Okay. They went in, interviewed tons of executives, and they came up with 12 habits that are holding women back. Some of these are different. Okay, some of these are different from the ones holding them back. But these are all things that women who get to a certain level of their career are likely to do, and that will stop them from progressing to the next level. So we've just got a few more minutes. I want to run through this really. Reluctance to declare your achievements. We've already talked about this a little bit. There are ways, and once you get to know your teams better, and once you have a lot of trust, it gets easier to do this. But research has shown that women are more successful when they claim their achievements, but they claim it collectively on behalf of their teams. So instead of saying, I know I did such an amazing job on this, you could say, I led my team and didn't do an amazing job, right? And bring that in a little bit. I know that's not right. Like I'm looking at your face and you're like, Dave, we shouldn't have to do that. And like, we shouldn't have to do that, right? And so that's one of the things where, do I do what's right for me in this moment? Or is this a moment for me to take a stand and say, no, I'm going to set an example for my whole company that's okay to do that, and whatever the consequences are. And that's the decision that each one of us has to make individually, right? Okay. Expecting others to go forward your contribution. How many of us have ever done this before? Come on, all of us have done it before, right? This is so common that we say, put our heads down. If I work so hard, if I'm the most accomplished person on the team, if I get the most done, they're going to notice. They're going to give you a promotion, right? Waiting around doesn't serve us, right? Go ahead.
So I have a side one to ask.
Yeah.
When you do get noticed and you do get that reward, sometimes we think,
didn't deserve that. How did I fool them into thinking that?
Right. So sometimes when we do get noticed, we do get the reward, we still play the imposter syndrome on ourselves and say, how did I fool them into thinking I really did? Right. One of my tech moms just posted a little meme today on our inspiration channel. And it said, the next time you think that you can't do something, just remember there's somebody out there already doing it wrong. And they have no intention of doing it better. And they're getting paid well to do it. So why don't you just go and do it right? Right? Like there's that idea. Go in with the confidence of the person who's totally complacent about doing it wrong. So I love this idea that sometimes we look around us and think, it's not me, right? I can't do this. But sometimes we need more support from another safety, the people that we're working with recognize, why not me? Right? I can do this. And it takes a long time to learn to develop that confidence and believe, yeah, I did do it and I deserve this. And it might take practice, and it might take a good friend to like talk back and forth with it. Okay. Overvaluing expertise. This is a huge one. How many of you know someone who is so good at their job that they are seen as irreplaceable? And thereby non. Like I cannot let my admin move up to a better job for her because my office will literally fall apart. Right? So becoming too good at our job and overvaluing our expertise. Sometimes, and this is another one, right? Putting your job before your career. That's another one that we do too. Like I owe my whole loyalty and everything to this model that I'm here. But our companies don't always give us the same loyalty that we give them. And so every time we're working on our specific job, we want to do our jobs well and be really successful. We want to make sure that we're not doing that at the expense of building rather than leveraging relationships. This is actually one I hear a presentation on. Women are so good at building relationships. I think it comes from like evolutionary days when the guys were out like killing it at Buffalo and we were home just taking care of the kid and like keeping everybody alive and stuff like that. So women are wired, I think all of us are, women are wired in a different way to like, we're going to take care of each other. We have so many reasons for building relationships, but at the same time, we are so hesitant to leverage professional relationship, right? And then they're like, oh, I just met this guy, but maybe he'll help my nephew get a job, right? They're like so much more comfortable doing that than we are. It's part of the way that we can socialize. One of the reasons why this happens is because as women, sometimes we fail to recognize that we have something to bargain with, that we have something to give. The leveraging relationship is like quid pro quo. You give something, and then maybe 10 years later, I'll give something back to you, right? That type of thing. And it's what sometimes we don't believe that we have it. So we're scared to right? That is a huge, huge barrier. And as you look at the whole definition of the Old Boys Club, means that people want to help each other out. And we need to be willing to help others out and be helped out. Failing to listen always from day one that's related to this. They share a story in the book about a woman who came in to an organization and said, the first thing I'm going to do for the first 6 months is learn everything I need to do this job perfectly. And they looked at a man in a similar situation. He said, I'm going to connect with everybody that I need to connect with to help me be successful at my job. It was two different mindsets. And one was so much more likely to help that person be successful, even at the job that they were doing. Okay, putting your job before your career, the perfection trap. How many of us have felt a little bit of perfectionism in our lives? Perfect is the enemy of good, right? I would say perfect is the enemy of done. Right? If I wait until it's that way perfect, I will never get it done. So I have to push myself. Let's go get done. And this is to pleasing others. I am 100%. I want everyone to love me. It is really rough. If ever someone doesn't like me, I'm just like, why? How could that be? Like, everyone loves me. Like, it does not serve me well. This is not my best interest to have the idea that everyone minimizing, making ourselves too small. Too much is actually talking too much, which if you guys are like, Robin, it's time. When do you want me to stop? Listen, churches. I see that one talking too much. But listen, this is really interesting. I talk a lot, but I know when to talk, right? And as part of my job, I hire a bunch of my own graduates to come in and do things. And I've actually had to have communication workshops on being brief, being concise, getting only to the relevant information you need. Like, there are totally times to talk forever when you're staying out with friends and you're sharing all this information. But when you're in a board meeting, You don't need to give the 15 minutes of context for how you got the business that you got, right? And that's something that a lot of women haven't been taught and haven't ruminating. How many of us have those shower talks the next morning like, this is exactly what I should have said. Like I come up with the best comments the next day. And stuff that I should have said and I wouldn't. So ruminating, I have a sister-in-law, so this is related, and I don't know how many people who have a real tendency to ruminate also have OCD or other like mental health challenges, but she learned a tool of therapy because she would ruminate all the time. It was an OCD thing that was keeping her from living her life, and she created a little physical, visual activity that she did, which was going like this. So she would do this with herself when she would just make a circle with her finger and then stop the finger to visualize to herself and give her like a physical, tangible moment to say, I thought about this thing and now I'm stopping, right? So that I've actually incorporated that into my life. I don't ruminate too much. I'm moving past a little bit of my life, but there's some things like definitely when like someone's done me wrong or when someone's misunderstood me and like accused me of something that I didn't do, like, oh, I can ruminate on that forever. So I practice that little tool. The other thing you can do is just give yourself a time limit. Like, I'm giving myself 10 minutes. I'm gonna have all the conversations I need to have, and then I'm done with that, right? So this is something to overcome. And then letting your radar distract. This is the 12 habit to talk about the fact that women, because of our nature in society, that we are doing so many different things. I know that scientists are now saying that we never really multitask, that we're all just task switching. But I swear I could fold the laundry and watch things. Like I could literally do both of them. But anyway, you know, this idea that because of the way that we function in society, I am the executive manager of my family, right? I know every carpool, I know where every kid needs to be. Like my husband's just like, we go on a trip and then he shows up and gets in the car, right? I'm like, go to this trip for 5 days. So I mean, those are the things. So we're used to having so much information in our head that in certain situations, it can be distraction. It can keep us from seeing the most important thing. It can keep us from seeing the big picture. And so in some settings, we can work on the hyper focus that sometimes men can have because they know the really have a, sorry guys, I'm not picking on you, right? Like we're all friends here. Good. Okay.
This one is, there's a post last night actually, Robert, she's father, they asked her how she managed career and her family, and she says we're all juggling balls. We all have, and it's not just 2 or 3 balls, it's 50 balls, 100 balls, but we're all juggling those balls. The thing to remember though is some of those balls are glass and some of those balls are plastic. And if plastic ones fall, it's okay. But they change. One day it might be your family that's the glass balls and work is plastic balls. But trying to figure out which are those glass ones, which are those plastic ones to help you focus on what needs your attention right now, and it's okay if those others fall. I thought that was a really great message.
That is one of my favorite measures. I actually use them all the time. That exists for me. So everybody on Zoom, I'm not going to repeat the whole thing. Go look up Nora Roberts juggling glass and plastic balls. It's a fantastic thing, and I love that idea because some people think, of course, your family is always the glass ball, right? Like and we all know, like our families, our personal relationships, those are most important things to us. But like on any given day, like that kid's thing is not more important than the huge report you got the next day, right? And so I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so this is our last chapter. I'm going to finish up here, and I'm happy to answer any questions or anything as we're wrapping things up today. I want you to maybe go back to this list. I think, and maybe you've got your own list, right? These are from a lot of women, but we might have something that's specific to us and say, what are 3 of these things from this list that are holding me back? Okay, they're keeping me from getting where I want to go next. I have another up in a second. I want to think, what's the one thing I could do in each of these 3 areas? Okay, so go ahead and look at this list. Say which of the 3 of these are relevant to me right now. When my radar distracts me, The thing I'm talking about right here is I spend too much of my time on the least important parts of my job that are easy. Like it's easier for me to spend 2 hours answering emails than it is to spend 1 hour raising money. Right. So that's a continual thing that I'm working on in my own career to say, how can I focus my energy? I have things to right. So that's one. Okay. So I just want to make a final little call to action for each of you. For every one of us in this room today, we have other women in our lives who are facing challenges and struggles. And maybe some of them have been where we are now, and they're ahead of us, but they're facing new challenges. And maybe we've been where some of them are. They're behind us and they're moving along on their way, right? I share this perspective with the image of abundance. This is one of my favorites. I love this since I was a little girl, because I truly believe in the principle of abundance. I reject the zero-sum game mindset. I believe that there's enough work for us all to do. There's enough reward for us all to gain. There's enough recognition for us all to experience as we're doing good work. And there's enough support for all of us to go around. So I want to encourage you to identify, I'll put this out to anybody, it doesn't need to be a woman, but lots of times, especially in this industry that you're working in, a lot of you are in areas where women are very, very much in the minority. Right? There might be a couple women in your area. And so looking out for another woman could be a really valuable way to practice this idea of abundance and think about what you could be doing to lift her up and recognize that as you're doing that, you're also rising as well and helping, of course, your company and your organizations rise. So that's what I had for you today. I would love for you to reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to chat with you and support you. And I just wanted to so thanks so much for coming to my TED Talk about Children's Day. Do you have questions? Should we do a Q&A now? You're coming up here to talk.
Let's do the Q&A.
Okay, I mean, and we were having this open discussion. I'm happy to take questions privately as well. But even if you have a question that you'd love to share in the group, I'd love to take any questions. Were there any questions on the webinar? Okay. And then closed captioning.
What's the one thing men do at the office that we just get stop that we're not aware of?
Which one thing that men do not? So maybe just already. Just one.
Why?
Just start with one. And this is a good one. I don't know if any of you heard the presentation that I gave in this break. I was talking about male allies. But that was based on a research study where we asked 80 men, 200 women, that's who reflected the study, what allyship behaviors were valuable and helpful in their careers. So we asked the men, what do you do that is helping the women? How are you being a good ally? And we asked the women, how are the men in your lives being good allies? And guess what? The answers were not the same. So there was a lot of overlap. But what women said was the most important thing was not what men said was the most important thing. So I would say the most important thing you can do is ask women in your organization what they need from you. So it's not a thing you can stop. So maybe stop assuming that you know what will help and what women need from an ally male. But the most important thing you can do is ask a question and say, if you need anything right now in your career, what would it be? If you need help in your specific role right now, what can I do? Are there barriers that I can clear out of the way for you? Are there responsibilities that you need? So I would just say, ask. That's a great question. Thank you. Other questions? Thanks so much for your address.
I would like to thank Robin. It was very inspiring and super powerful message. We appreciate your time. And we thank everyone that here and participate and the people that participated in online as well. I would like to remind you guys of our next event. on December 8th for our visual work event. We hope to see you there, and we look forward to see you again in our next events as well. Thank you, everyone, and you guys are welcome to grab one of our swag tracks. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sound like say that to the bar. I don't feel like they're all with that.